Back in the 1990s, I was George Clooney. I was up in the air 200 days a year. And we both looked at each other, and this is a divorce waiting to happen. I was far more comfortable in a hotel room than I was in my own bed. I went up to my boss and I said, look, you got two choices. You can double my salary to pay for the divorce, or you can cut my travel days in half. They said, why don't we buy you out? I said,
BenBaker, strategic leader at I AM BenBaker and account developer at Get to Know BenBaker, and host of the Gnaw on This Business Bytes podcast. With 25 plus years bridging strategy, story, and experience, he helps teams align, engage, and grow through meaningful change.
most companies do a reasonably decent job marketing to their clients. They do a horrific job communicating internally. I have a saying that says your brand is only as valuable as your unhappiest employee on their worst day.
How do you convey that without being either an authoritarian and just saying suck it up, or being wishy-washy and actually giving employees the false impression that they could change your mind?
Just say why. This is why. We're doing this because...
If you're like most of our listeners, you love the idea of running the show, but you're constantly second-guessing yourself if you're ready or the person for the job. Are you missing a key skill? Are you aware of the things you need to know, like reading a financial statement or financing the operations of a business? We are here to solve that for you. Our new free Ownership Readiness Diagnostic will rank you from 1 to 4 on 5 foundational pillars of successful business ownership. It is the ultimate confidence builder that will tell you, yes, it is time to have that conversation, or no, these are the areas that you might need a little bit more time to develop. If you're interested in taking that assessment, you can find the link for that down in the description below.
Welcome to the Art of Succession podcast with Barrett Young. Join us as we explore the strategies, stories, and insights that shape the journey of leadership transitions and business success. No matter where you find yourself along the journey, this is the podcast where you'll find the tools to make it happen.
My name is Barrett Young, and this is the Art of Succession podcast. My guest today is Ben Baker, former president of Your Brand Marketing, specializing in internal employee communication and engagement, and he's now exploring what's next. Ben, welcome to the Art of Succession.
Barrett, thanks for having me on the show. I've been excited about this conversation.
Very good. I appreciate that. Looking forward to it. So I wanted to ask, what is it that excites you about this conversation? What brings you to the Art of Succession? What do you really want our listeners to gain from this episode?
You know what? For me, it's all about communication. And I find that organizations live, die, succeed, fail, and grow because of communication. And, just because you've said it doesn't mean that people have listened to it, understood it, valued it, internalized it, and can recall it. And we need to look at organizations and say, okay, what is our purpose, mission, vision, and goals? And it just can't be laminated and put in a book somewhere. It has to be lived. And how we live that is through communication and storytelling. So I figured that would be a great place to start the conversation.
Yeah. So you explored this with your own marketing agency that you've run for the past 17 years. I mean, just share with me just a brief history. What brought you to that point around 2008 or so, and then we'll get into how communication can help my audience.
Yeah, I am a recovering high tech sales guy. Back in the 1990s, I was George Clooney. I was up in the air 200 days a year.
Whew.
And I literally woke up some mornings, got to the airport, and hadn't a clue where I was going. My secretary would send me tickets, and I would head off, and away I would go. And a lot of it is I had a $100 million client. And my job was to make things right, to take care of things, build new programs, bring new products online, a whole bunch of other things. And, it got me flying around North America. I got up to the million and a half mile club, somewhere in that range. And my wife and I looked at each other when we got married, and that was 96 and early 97. And we both looked at each other and said, this is a divorce waiting to happen. I'm never home. I was literally gone 250 plus days a year. And, I was far more comfortable in a hotel room than I was in my own bed. And so I went up to my boss and I said, look, you got two choices. You could double my salary to pay for the divorce, or you can cut my travel days in half. They said, why don't we buy you out? I said, perfect. And so I spent the next 6 months hiring my replacement, flying them around North America, introducing them to everybody. And then I got a 6-month override to just sit around and play golf. And so I did. I played golf and I met a guy and we played golf for about a week. And he says, "Well, what are you doing right now?" And I says, "Well, I'm in between opportunities. I don't know what I'm going to do." He says, "Well, we're in the direct mail business. We need people who understand how to deal with large enterprise level companies. We need people that understand tech. I can teach you the direct mail business." I said, "Let's have a conversation." So one conversation led to 5, which led to 10, and led me coming on board and working with them for a number of years. In a capacity, I had I had this territory and I had small piece of the business. And it allowed me to really get in there and understand brand, message, vision, purpose, differentiation, how to create emotional ties, and how to create this situation where people not only understand and value, but want to engage. And that was great. And that was a lot of fun. And it was fun until it wasn't fun. The guy who owned the majority of the company was getting older and he was looking to sell the company. And it was evident they didn't want to sell it to me. For some reason, he just decided that he didn't want to sell it inside the company. He wanted to sell it to somebody who didn't know the history of the company, didn't know anything. So, I basically went up to him and said, "Look, I'm leaving. I'm starting my own business and I'm going out on my own." And that was January 2008. And that was the start of your brand marketing.
Okay. So your experience was in sales and marketing up to this point.
Absolutely.
Very traditional, like in-person travel and direct mail at this point. What did your brand marketing look like for you at that point? Did it start off doing the same kind of thing? Like you're gonna build a competitor to your prior job?
Yeah,
What did
it
that look
was it
like?
was tasty. I mean, I went out into the marketplace and I sent an email to all my clients. Says same great service, brand new name.
Gotcha.
And 90% of my clients followed me. And we're talking, provincial governments, police departments, health authorities, fairly large and enterprise level companies. And the reason they followed me is because they had no idea who the company was or what the company did. They know me.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I was the one that they had the relationship with. I was the one that they built a level of trust with. I was the one that knew birthdays and anniversaries and kids' names and all those sort of things. So there was no reason for them to stay with the old company when I was able to do everything that they were able to do, but just do it on my own, which I was doing on my own anyway. What I did is I built a set of vendor partners. And so instead of having all those services in house, I built it with a set of vendor partners. And the business expanded. It expanded into brand storytelling, it into trade show development, into social media marketing as social media came online, and a variety of other things. But it's always been brand message and messaging. It's always about how do you differentiate it? How do you tell a story that people care about? How do you tell a story that tells people why they should deal with you compared to your competitor? And how do you get that story not only told by you, but by your staff and through them through to your customers so they can tell it and retell it and build champions for your brand?
So, I mean, we think of direct mail nowadays, and direct mail companies basically sell you a list. You're actually going into the companies at this time and saying, "What's your message? What are the pain points? What's the offer that we're producing here?" So you're really handling the entire campaign
Oh, yeah. I
in the
mean,
fir in the
here's a
first
perfect
company there.
example. One of our clients was a large 35 or 40 store grocery store chain. So they're not enterprise level, but they were big in in their neck of the woods. In Washington State, especially northern Washington State, you would know who they were. And their competitors was Albertsons. And every time Albertsons dropped a flyer, I would get this panic phone call and said, "Oh my God, they dropped the flyer. You need to do this." And I went, "No, actually, we don't. Let's stop. Let's pull back a little bit. Let's figure out, okay, how do we cause them pain instead of them causing us pain and us being reactive? How do we cause them pain? What can we do that they can't do?" Well, we have a better relationship with our clients. We have a better and a more well-known, in-store brand. We have a better database than they do. Believe it or not, we did. And because of that, we were able to do a lot more sniper marketing and be able to create a lot of campaigns that left Albertsons, you know, on their heels rather than us being chasing the bigger fish.
So this is like really targeted marketing at this time.
Extremely,
Before there
extremely.
were apps and collecting everybody's email addresses and everything like that. It's like this target segment of who we have, and we're going to speak directly to them.
Yeah.
So how do you gain attention in something as crowded as direct mail? How do you gain the right eyeballs to that piece of content? And then, how do you we'll modernize that as we get on in the
Sure.
discussion, but I'm just interested in hearing, like, that's the hard part even for businesses today. There's so much content. It's not physical paper anymore, but it just scrolls right by you. It's gotta be some of the same principles without being, hokey or without being, fat
It is.
chasing fads.
It's a matter of sitting there going, what does your client care about? It's not about what you care about. It's not about what you want to sell them. It's what do they want to buy? In particular, in this grocery store chain, and then I'll tell you about a casino client of mine that we had a 45% response rate for 3 years running. But for the grocery store chain, we found out when the women were on vitamins. Well, guess what? We were able to chase them for the next 2 to 3 years with diapers and pablum and, and all the sort of things that women need as they go through pregnancy and the first 2 or 3 years of raising a kid, and be able to create sniper-based coupons that were targeted directly at them. So we were able to come up with things like that. How do you sit there and say, what are my clients looking for? What's the pain point that they have? What enables them to want to come to us instead of our competitor? And a lot of it is people want to feel listened to, understood, and valued. And when we can do that, we have the ability to differentiate ourselves in a crowded marketplace. With the casino clients, the first time I walked into their server room and I looked at their database, I almost drooled. And they said, "What's going on?" I said, "Do you know what you have here?" They said, "No." I says, "Well, we've got players cards." I said, "No. You got birthdays, you got anniversaries, you know who comes, how often they come, you know what games they play, you know how much they spend, you know how much time they spend at the casino." Yeah. We created a monthly birthday card program that went out where we sent out 50,000 variably printed direct mail birthday cards every single month, inviting them and their friends to come down. They got a free lunch. Everybody that they brought down got a free piece of birthday cake. They got an offer based on how much money that they spend. Everybody that came with them got $10 in free play. Not only did they come down by themselves, they also came down with all their friends. Their friends who didn't have players cards got players cards, and all of a sudden we're starting to collect data on their friends. So we built that list from 50,000 people a month to 85,000 people a month.
Wow.
We went from sending out direct mail that was getting 3 to 5% response rate to 45% response rate. We were making millions of dollars a month. And it was all based on making the customer feel special.
Yeah. I mean, it's very relational what you're dealing with there. And you said they were dealing with you, they weren't dealing with the company. How do you help a company going through a transition like that? I'm thinking direct mail at the time.
Yeah.
There's probably like, we've got a new partner coming in. This is the new partner introduction postcard or something like that. How do you target that towards succession planning, even um,
Yeah.
to allay fears and reassure and say, still the same kind of company, just new face, something like that?
I think a lot of it has to do with that. Okay, what do we want to achieve? Who do we want to be seen as 3 to 5 years down the road, both internally and externally? Now let's innovate from the company from that point backwards. And we have to sit there and say, how do we want people to feel about us within the corporation? Where are we today? Where do we want to be? Where is the dichotomy? Where's the bridge that we need to build? And how do we build that bridge? And every single situation is different because it depends on what is the culture that you're going into. Are you in a fast driving culture that is all about get stuff done at any and all cost? Or are you at a culture that is about the human beings that are the essence of the organization and truly mean it? Never mind what it says on the placards. Who are you truly as an organization? And who do you want to be as an organization? Because you may sit there and say, we're a hard driving company. We're realizing this isn't working for us. To move that to a human based, purpose driven organization is months and years of work, more years of work than months. And it's done step by step, slowly by building champions within the organizations. It's built through, you know, building new leadership skills, training, and a constant communication of mission, vision, purpose, and values. And it's not just placating people, it's showing people along the way that we're not just saying this, we're doing it from a leadership point of view. The leaders have to be bought in on this, and they have to be making decisions about, how the company is run, the investments that they make, the training that they provide, the services that they do, the type of clients that they work with, the type of employees that they put up with. And all of those need to be brought to bear to be able to enable that transition to happen.
How do you get the leadership on board? I mean, obviously, if you're increasing a mailing list 50,000 to 85,000,
Right.
that's pretty convincing.
Yes, it
Millions of
is.
dollars or new revenue is pretty convincing. But I would imagine, so much of marketing is just like, here's some money, do something with it, show us results. They're kind of like throwing it off to the side, or we need to do something, trying to get the owners, the leaders of the company to buy into their own marketing, to see marketing as a value driver. How do you convince them of that?
You need to understand to be able to speak in their language.
Okay.
What are the goals of the organization? Never mind the goals of the marketing department or the communications department or the internal communications department or the HR department. What are the goals of the organization? What are the pain points? What are the challenges? What are the hopes, wants, fears, needs, and aspirations of those people within the C-suite? What do they want to see over the next 5 years? What do they sit there going, wait a second, this is not working. Whatever this is, this is not working. We need to fix this. Okay, now marketing, HR, comms, whatever needs to be brought to bear to be able to provide solutions that fixes that particular problem. It's understanding the language of economics, of business, of the CFO, and also of the other people within the C-suite to be able to understand how do we bring an alliance amongst these different departments to be able to look at a problem from the same side of the desk, looking over the desk to the problem, instead of you being on one side of the desk and them being on the other side. So there's too many organizations where departments say, well, this is what I'm being budgeted to do, I'm just going to do it. But they don't ask the right questions. They don't ask the why. Why are we doing this? What problems does doing this solve? Whose life do we make better by doing this? And when organizations and leaders can sit there and manage 365 and be able to have those conversations at a senior level, that's when stuff gets done. And that's when people stop being ignored and start being brought to the table.
I mean, in a way, your first marketing campaign is the leadership of the company, right?
Absolutely.
You're doing the exact same thing to grab their attention, to see them identify their pain and see you as the solution, as you're also saying we can do for you then.
Well, it's building trust.
Yeah.
It's building trust. I mean, I look at HR for the, they're constantly being ignored. And unfortunately, that's a lot of the truth of the matter, is that HR tends to be seen as a revenue depleting or part of the organization and not a revenue generating part of the organization. The trick is they can be. If they took a look and looked at all their programs and said there, says, look, by doing this, this, and this is how we're increasing revenue within the company. By doing this, this, and this is how we're able to afford the objectives to be reached, then they're going to get a lot more budget. It's how stuff is couched. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And people need to be able to speak in a language that's understood, not to speak in their own myopic speaking tone that is department centric.
Yeah, I imagine even as a marketing company, that's hard to do as well, because probably the tendency in marketing is we work with casinos, we know casinos, or I always feel like marketers they come in and they act like they know my customers, they act like they know me, when really I'm the one with the expertise. I just don't know how to express it in the same way that they do to actually, you know, trigger action. How do you deal with that when you're moving into a new industry, a new field of we have expertise that you need to tap into, but I need you to be engaged as the owner to tell me, what you know about your clients. You've got the 40 years experience in the industry.
And I think it almost needs to be that blunt. It truly does, to sit there and say, look, there's so many organizations that say we're just going to hire somebody with casino marketing experience because it's easier for us.
Yeah.
They speak our
Hands
language,
off.
but the problem is they're going to present you the same as they did the last 30 clients that they worked with.
Yep. It'll look like every
You're
other
going to look like
casino.
every other casino out there. You're going to look like every other grocery store, every other law firm, every other accounting firm, whatever. It's almost better to hire somebody that has understanding of how to tell a story and how to build a brand and how to listen to who you are as an organization than somebody that comes in with preconceived biases and of what they think the industry is and what it should be. And that's the level of conversation that I come in that says, look, my job is to not know your business as well as you do. You are the expert in your business. My job is to ask why. My job is to sit there and ask the questions that nobody else within your organization is asking, because everybody assumes everybody knows the answer. And quite honestly, everybody doesn't know the answer. Google doesn't know all the answers. AI
Right.
doesn't know all the answers.
Yeah, we have to test them and find what we do know is right and what we find out is wrong, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, marketing is experimentation because what worked over here 5 years ago doesn't work here today.
Yeah.
Because it's always changing,
Yeah,
right? So
especially with COVID. I mean, the tactics and techniques that I used in 2019 are not the same tactics that I used in 2021. The world changed.
Yeah.
And it's not going back. And you need to look at things differently. You need to communicate differently. You need to approach clients differently because they're thinking differently.
Yeah, I wanna talk, I do wanna get into, like, how you turned to internal communication, because I think that that's fascinating and has application for this discussion. But before we do that, like, when you are really good at a marketing tactic, how do you, as a business owner of a marketing agency, determine we need to shift? Like, you could be I mean, there are still companies out there that are still pushing heavy on direct mail. Some even say it's coming back, but you have to, like, update your tactics as the time goes on. Like you said, you guys added social media as that started to take off. How do you make that determination rather than just like, we're really good at this and we're going to maximize efficiency on this versus bridging into something completely new?
I'll explain it the way I explain to clients when I talk to them about promotional marketing. I used to go for 15 or 18 years. I used to go down to Vegas every year for the PPAI show. There was 3,500 vendors and probably 500,000 different promotional marketing pieces that were down there. Every coffee mugs, lanyards, pins, you name it. It's anything and everything you can think of, you could do it.
Oh my gosh, a conference for swag
It's a
promoters.
swag conference. It's the biggest swag conference in North America. It
Oh
is.
my
It's
gosh. You need
overwhelming.
extra suitcases to
Oh,
bring
absolutely.
home.
Forget about that. They got stations that you just drop stuff with a barcode, and it
Ship it
automatically
home.
has your UPS code, and they just ship stuff home for you. So I used when I first went to these conferences, I would ship home 10 boxes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and because I had a huge team, and it was cheaper for me to send stuff home for them to look at than it was to bring 10 people to Vegas with me. So, we used to bring the top 2 or 3 people to Vegas and everybody else got the stuff from the show. But what I tell people is, look, there's a 500,000, there's now over probably 1 million promotional products out there. 99.9% of those pieces are wrong for your particular campaign.
Wow. Okay.
They're the wrong color, they're the wrong message, they're the wrong product, they don't tell the right story, they don't align with your brand, they don't align with your message, whatever. And it's a matter of figuring it out. The same thing goes with any tactics. Like, I don't sell B2C anymore, haven't for years. For me to be on TikTok is ridiculous. First of all, I'm too old for the TikTok dance. And second of all, it's not my audience, but it's great for other people. And we need to understand that not every medium is good for everybody. And to sit there and say there is no magical bullet. If you're on LinkedIn, you're gonna make $1 million. No, maybe you won't.
Great.
And so what we need to sit there and say, what are the mediums and the tactics that are going to work for you? And let's go out there and explore that and bring those things on board. And because of the way that I ran my business, I was able to bring experts on board on any particular thing, use them for that particular campaign, utilize their expertise, and then send them on their way and pay them well for it. Instead of having, everything looks like a nail because all I own is a hammer. And if you are an organization that has certain expertise in-house, that's all you're going to sell.
Yeah.
And it works well for you because it keeps these people employed, but there's no guarantee that that's the right solution for that client. And so marketing companies and, companies that want to have marketing done need to realize that, say, you know what, in today's world, there is no magic bullet. There is no easy button. There's no definitive answer. There are tactics and processes that are going to work for you and your clients. And that's what needs to be explored, and everything else throw on the garbage pile. And you may pick it up later. In 5 years from now, you may pick it up and redust it off and say, hey, wait a second here, that may work. But for the time being, with limited budget and time and effort, you can only do so much and you can only reach so many people. And better to spend the money and the time and the effort on the people that are going to make you money than try to be everybody's friend, where all of a sudden nobody's going to see value in what you do.
What about when, I guess, you have an existing market? This is where our typical client hangs out. This is, has always worked for us. I'm coming into a company. I've got different ideas. I want aspirationally to reach the clients that are on TikTok. I mean, somebody's going to do it. I mean, there are tax preparers absolutely that are huge on TikTok. So how do you deal with that? The tried and true is, membership dues at the country club and the local chamber, but I want to try and experiment with something else. Like, how do you bridge that gap and run those experiments and then decide, nope, it's not paying off. You're not suited for the TikTok. You need to leave that to somebody else.
I think what you need to do is allocate a certain percentage of your budget. I say 15 to 20% for those experimental things.
Of your marketing budget specifically.
Of your marketing budget. Say, listen, we have $100,000 marketing budget. We have $20,000. We're going to test those on Facebook ads. Or we're going to taste them on 50% on Facebook ads and 50% of them on TikTok ads, which is a better way of doing it. And then what you do is you A/B test within that to sit there and say, okay, which is giving me a better pull? Which is bringing in the audience that is actually spending money with me? Which is bringing in the people? And you need to sit there and say, not over a week, not over a month, but over 3 to 6 months. To be able to sit there and say, we're going to give this an honest thing, and you're looking for trends.
Okay.
You're not looking for absolute dollar amounts with these things. You're looking for trends. And you may do little tweaks along the way to be able to, to say, okay, this is working, but this isn't working. Let's try this instead of that. But you need to be able to sit there and say, I'm going to take a reasonable amount of money. I know this is working. I'm not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but I'm going to take 20% of my funds and I'm going to put this towards AI, ads, TikTok. Just don't spend all the money on one page ad on the New York Times. It's not going to do anything for you. If you do, it was like, you might as well buy a lottery ticket. But what you need to do is have consistent, ongoing marketing within a platform and test it. And with serious KPIs as a matter, it says, we want to see this kind of result, this type of customer, this type of conversation coming in, this type of product being bought or whatever service being bought within this 3 to 6 month period of time, and take a look and sit there and say, which one is giving you the better bang for the buck? And then you double down and you try it again. And you sit there and say, okay, maybe it wasn't Facebook ads, maybe it was LinkedIn ads. All right, let's see if LinkedIn and TikTok work. Which one works best, LinkedIn or TikTok? Wait a second here. We thought TikTok was the bomb. We went over to LinkedIn. We're getting 10 times the amount. And so if you're not A/B testing this, if you're not looking at this in a way to sit there and say, compare A to B, you have no way of knowing whether you're doing a good job or you're not doing a good job. But everybody should be testing, everybody should be experimenting. Everybody should be risking a portion of their marketing budget, not all their marketing budget, certainly not the majority of their marketing budget, but a reasonable amount that enables you to sit there and say, "Oh, let's test this theory and see if it works."
How do you test that with the other 80% that's doing the tried and true, where you are starting to pay attention and seeing it's not paying off the way that it used to? Like, how do you shift? It's almost like a reverse experiment or cutting off something that used to work and it's not. But you're spending 80% of your budget on there. And so if it brings in, one client this year, somebody could say, see, it's successful. It paid for itself.
And I think you need to sit there and say, what happened if we go to 50%? What happens if we go to
Could we get the
60%?
same?
Do we
Yeah.
do we
Okay.
get the same bang for the buck? If we spend 50% instead of 75% on this particular medium, what differentiation do we get? Oh, wait a second here. We went to 50%. God, we lost our shirt. We did all of a sudden we're not getting anywhere near the type of contacts that we wanted. We're not getting the people that we're looking for. Okay, maybe you need to bump it up a little bit. I look at it like medication. I'm on an acid reflux medication. I was on one pill and I really wanted to sit there and say, could I go off of it? So I went off of it for 6 weeks. Well, that was the worst mistake I ever made. So I went back to one and I feel much better. You tried it. You try it within a limited period of time. You try it with a reasonable expectation in mind. You don't cut it off saying, I'm never going to do this again. You sit there and say, what happens if we do this? What happens if we augment just a little bit? What happens if we take our mix and we mix it up just a little bit and test it and verify and have, you know, ways to find out whether you're actually getting the response that you're looking at. Don't look at it as anecdotally. You need to have data.
Go ahead.
And be able to say, what kind of pull through are we getting? Are we getting if our customer experience, all of a sudden our customer service, our customer experience lines, wait a second, what kind of conversations are starting to happen? When we make this differentiation, what kind of changes are we going to make? Wait a second, when we take a look at how stuff is being ordered in the online ordering, what's changed when we take a look at this, the change in our marketing? And be able to look at this from a objective point of view. It says, well, I don't know. My brother's sister's cousins, told me that LinkedIn was the bomb.
Mhm.
That doesn't work. It may be the bomb for them. It doesn't mean it's going to be the bomb for you.
So far we've talked, direct mail, and a lot of this stuff is very much about high volume transactional, like where are you going to eat dinner tonight? Are you going to go to the casino for your birthday? Kind of low dollar, but response rate kind of transactions. What I struggle with is when you have the higher level services, it's like we need to market something that's going to be a $250,000 investment. How do we do that? Get people to know, like, and trust when you are a huge dollar spend on that. Like I struggle with, like, what is your initial offer? What's um, a low barrier to entry or that initial purchase that gets people to test you out? How do you work with brands on that to say we need to chunk this or we need to, find ways to test this?
Yeah, and that's where I live and die, is those B2B, 100,000 to $1 million purchases. And a lot of it comes down to sitting there going, who do we really need to talk to? We don't need to talk to IBM. Who do we need to talk to at IBM? What do those people care about? It's sniper marketing. It's go to market. It's, it's looking at it going account-based marketing. And a lot of it comes down to sit there and say, okay, years ago, and we're talking a lifetime ago, I started off working at Xerox. And one of the best things I ever did in my life was take the Xerox sales training. And the Xerox sales training said, if you don't have 3 different contacts in 3 different departments, you're not in that company. So it's like senior level, mid-level manager, for lack of a better word, worker bee. And if you don't have that in 3 different departments within the organization, you're not in that company. And if you're going after 100,000, $250,000, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, $50 million purchases, being buddies with the purchasing agent is not going to do it. And that's realistic. There's a guy that I knew that, and I've been podcasting for 14 years, who owned a company out of Prince Edward Island in the States. And what they did is they sold $1 million tractor trailers, but instead of the tractor trailer, the trailer raising to dump, it had a treadmill on it. So whatever you were trying to do, the stuff would just slide out. Okay.
Yep.
He went to a meeting with a client in Montana and this guy was going to buy millions of dollars of product. And he had brought his pitch deck and all that kind of stuff. He says, don't worry about your pitch deck. He says, I've already seen your LinkedIn posts. I've already seen your YouTube videos. I've already listened to your podcasts. I know who you are as a company. Let's talk how we can work together. And it happened drip by drip over time and being able to build that know, like, and trust. And, when I'm going after whale clients, you expect it's a 12 to 18 month process. It doesn't happen quick. It doesn't happen, with this flash of light. It happens over time because you build trust not only with one person, but maybe with 30 people within a company. And you know who's on the buying committee and what are their hot buttons. And being able to build marketing pieces that you can drip into their pockets that talk about how you understand who they are as a company and what their challenges are and how they sell to their clients and how to make it easier for them to sell to their clients using your product.
I hope that you've enjoyed part 1 of my episode with Ben Baker. We have new episodes on the art of succession with business owners with their own succession stories twice a month. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can find the link for that down in the description below. In part 2, we're going to pick up as Ben starts to shift his company from external marketing for clients to internal marketing to their internal teams. And we're going to talk about all the ramifications and nuances of that. If you've enjoyed this episode, I ask that you please share it with somebody else. It really helps the show out. And I want to thank you for watching The Art of Succession.